tariffs and correct its mistakes. Then we look at how a social media app became a hub for hate crime and radical extremists. And 113 years since the sinking of the Titanic, we get a new digital look at the world's most famous shipwreck.
To see it all like this, well lit up, in context, you can see off into the distance. That's a view that you never have at the wreck site.
Major funding for PBS News Weekend has been provided by...
In 1995, two friends set out to make wireless coverage accessible to all. With no long-term contracts, nationwide coverage, and 100% US-based customer support. Consumer Cellular. Freedom calls.
Certified financial planner professionals are proud to support PBS News Weekend. CFP professionals are committed to acting in their clients' best interest. More information at letsmakeaplan.org.
The ongoing support of these individuals and institutions. And friends of the NewsHour. This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm John Yang. The developing trade war between the United States and China keeps ratcheting up. There are reports tonight China has suspended exports of rare earth minerals critical to automakers, semiconductor companies, and military contractors. And Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said today that the electronics the administration exempted from reciprocal tariffs on Friday could be subject to different levies in the future. Earlier, I spoke with Katrina Northrup, China correspondent for The Washington Post. I asked her about the Chinese reaction to the initial exemption of those electronics.
They said that it was a good step. They're still criticizing the tariffs, but it does show a window of opportunity potentially for the two sides to talk. There's still a lot of problems and a lot of kind of barriers to get them together, but that exemption, I think, is going to be seen positively in Beijing.
What do the economists and analysts say about the effect on the Chinese economy of a trade war?
It's huge. The Chinese economy is not doing well. It's struggled to rebound from the pandemic. They've had a property sector crisis. They've had high youth unemployment. So they started at a bad baseline, and exports have been a really bright spot in the otherwise sluggish economy.
Katrina, you're in Taipei, like most Western journalists, because of the restrictions that Beijing has put on Western journalists. Is it possible to tell, though, how this is affecting or the reaction of the Chinese people to this?
It's hard to tell, but there's a lot of concern, like there is in the US, around a spiraling trade war. There are many supply chains built up in China around serving the American market.
You talk about China sort of looking or interested in a deal, but outwardly they've been very defiant. Help us understand the Chinese reaction in response to all of this.
Yeah, they've stood very firm. The people that we talk to say that they don't want to be seen as weak. They don't want to be seen as being pressured by Trump. And Trump seems to be waiting for Xi Jinping to call him. And Xi Jinping doesn't seem willing to make that call. So we're waiting to see what happens or whether we continue to escalate. I don't think that's out of the question. I think we could see more escalation before we see any type of negotiation.
And is China prepared for that escalation? Do they have plans in their back pocket, as it were?
Yeah, China has been preparing
Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program, number 7. You have now reached rank A. Subject AC, deep down. Call sign, Gun 2 Nile. Commencing evaluation.
Main system, activating combat mode.
Destroyed. Concluding evaluation. Well done. Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program, number 6, rank A. Subject AC, open faith. Call sign, V2 Snail. Commencing evaluation.
Main system, activating combat mode.
Target destroyed. Concluding evaluation. Well done. Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program, Number 5, Rank A. Subject AC, Umber Ox. Call sign, Chartreuse. Commencing evaluation.
Main system activating combat mode.
Destroyed. Concluding evaluation. Well done. Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program. Number 4, Rank A. Final evaluation. Subject AC, Astrik. Call sign, Thamdolmayan. Commencing evaluation.
Main system activating combat mode.
This concludes A rank evaluation. Only the best of the best remain.
Incoming comms.
Congratulations, you have surpassed rank A. It is a great honor to witness your ongoing evolution as a mercenary. All Mind exists for all mercenaries.
new firepower. You'll start by descending through Depth 1, a vertical chamber sector. It's likely you'll meet resistance from autonomous defenses left by the PCA. The worst of them is lurking at the bottom, Nepenthes, an energy weapon platform. Heard on the grapevine that it already turned half of Balaam's forces to 621. You ready? You'll be going down deep, and there's no guarantee you'll come back. Still, you're the only one who can do this. I'm counting on you to reach the coral.
Main system activating combat mode.
Commence mission. Access the elevator and take it down.
Intruder detected. Threat level unknown. Defense phase 1.0. Commencing termination. The defense system is activated. It's got eyes on you. Fight back.
The elevator's locked out.
We have no choice but to jump. Let's go, Raven. Watch out. Below you. That's the Peppies. It's clearly a force to be reckoned with.
AP at 30%. Main system activating combat mode.
Commence mission. Access the elevator and take it down.
Intruder detected. Threat level unknown. Defense phase 1.0. Commencing termination. The defense system is activated. It's got eyes on you. Fight back.
The elevator's locked out.
We have no choice but to jump. Let's go, Raven. Watch out! Below you! That's the Peppies. It's clearly a force to be reckoned with.
AP at 50%. One repair kit remaining.
Wait, the partition's moving.
No repair kits remaining.
I'm picking up enemy signals nearby. Containing intruder. Commencing termination. Threat level. Threat level.
You're clear. I'll find a way to get that partition open. Stand by for now, 621.
Over there. I've sent you a marker.
access point. Good job sniffing that out.
Unauthorized access detected. Transitioning to phase 1.5.
Changed its combat routine, Raven. Watch out for those plasma missiles. Evasive action!
AP at
Changed its combat routine, Raven. Watch out for those plasma missiles. Evasive action! Changed its combat routine, Raven. Watch out for those plasma missiles.
AP at 30%.
Changed its combat routine, Raven. Watch out for those plasma missiles.
AP at 50%.
Tracking you, 621.
Evasive action.
Repair kit remaining. No repair kits remaining. AP at 50%. At 30%.
You're up close now, 621. Destroy the target.
Raven, it'll be easier to immobilize if you aim for the neck joint.
Detecting sustaining damage. Overriding just one defense plan.
The Panthe's artillery platform is silent.
Target destroyed. Mission accomplished.
Let's rest while we can, Raven. We've got a long road ahead of us.
Messages.
since the first trade war with the US in the first Trump term. And there's been a huge push to kind of create a more independent economy. At the same time, they've also developed this whole suite of tools to push back against Washington. So it's not only tariffs that they have in their pocket, they have export controls, which they've increasingly used. They have sanctions. They can go after specific US companies. On Friday, Beijing said that they would not increase tariffs further from the 125% that they are on right now. But that doesn't mean that they won't use these other tools like export controls to go after Washington.
What's this doing to the overall relationship between these two countries?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern around this escalating beyond just a trade war. This could very easily move into a broader spiraling tension over things like Taiwan or South China Sea or other issues. And so economic and trade ties have long been a stabilizing force in the relationship. It's brought the two countries together. It's forced them to talk. And right now we're closer to economic decoupling than we ever have been. And many people are concerned that the two leaders won't be able to get the relationship back on the right track.
Katrina Northrup of the Washington Post, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
In tonight's other news, 2 Russian missiles struck the eastern Ukrainian city of Sumy as people there gathered to celebrate Palm Sunday. Ukrainian officials say at least 34 people were killed and more than 100 injured. The attacks appear to be part of the Russian spring offensive that Ukraine warned about last month. On Friday, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff was in Russia to encourage President Vladimir Putin to accept a truce as President Trump's patience wears thin.
I think Ukraine-Russia might be going okay, and you're going to be finding out pretty soon. You know, there's a point at which you just have to either put up or shut up, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's going fine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff says the missiles that hit Sumy were armed with cluster munitions to cause as much damage as possible. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and his family are safe tonight after police say an arsonist attacked his official residence. Shapiro said Pennsylvania State Police alerted him and his family to the fire and safely evacuated them. Fire crews quickly put out the flames, but a significant portion of the residence is damaged. An investigation is underway. The man the Trump administration acknowledges it deported by mistake is alive and secure. That's according to the first court-ordered daily report on the status of Kilmar Abrego Garcia that the administration submitted on Saturday. In the court filing, a State Department official said Abrego Garcia is being detained by the Salvadoran government. The report didn't say anything about what the administration is doing to facilitate his return to the United States, information a U.S. District Court judge said had to be updated daily. As Abrego Garcia's case continues, President Trump is to meet with the president of El Salvador tomorrow at the White House. The White House physician says President Trump is in excellent health and fully fit to serve as commander-in-chief. The White House released the results of Mr. Trump's annual physical conducted Friday at Walter Reed Medical Center. The report says Mr. Trump has a scar on his right ear from last year's assassination attempt, is taking 2 medications to control his cholesterol, and is current on all recommended vaccinations. The report also notes that his active lifestyle includes frequent victories in golf events. Still to come on PBS News Weekend, the online hub for hate crime and radical extremists. And we bring you a groundbreaking new look at the Titanic.
This is PBS News Weekend from the David M. Rubenstein studio at WETA in Washington, home of the PBS News Hour, weeknights on PBS.
Proponents of social media say that it bridges physical distance to build communities of like-minded people. But what binds them together can sometimes be hatred and violence. A joint investigation by ProPublica and PBS Frontline details the shadowy world of online hate networks. Their investigation focuses on the platform Telegram, and it's detailed in a new documentary, The Rise and Fall of Terrorgram.
At first, it's just a handful of chat rooms and channels on Telegram. Then it is bigger and bigger and bigger, and finally, it takes on a formal shape. And people within that group